I will be starting here in a minute. My name is Joyce Scatuccio. I am the Historical Archives Director here, and we are excited that we will be presenting a history of AIA West Jersey, 1925 to present. So please give us a minute or two, and we'll be getting going.
How's everyone doing?
Oh, there you are. Okay, Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Um,
Hi.
I would like to introduce Lauren Harris, Libetard Lauren Harris. She will be our moderator for today, and Kim Bunn, AIA, will be our presenter. So I'm going to go off camera, and Lauren, take it away.
Well, I'm happy to be here with all of you today. I'm Lauren Harris. I'm current president of AIA West Jersey, but I'm going to introduce Kimberly Bunn, AIA, who is a New Jersey-based architect and principal of Bunn Architecture, past president of AIA West Jersey, and I had to Google it, 2006, and a past president of AIA New Jersey in 2015. She has a firm that believes in historic renovations, environmentally conscious commercial projects. She's a LEED accredited professional and a graduate of NJIT. I too am a graduate of NJIT. But one of the first things that we did when we decided to commemorate this 125th anniversary of AIA West Jersey was to reach out to the person who collects all of our memories. And that is you, Kim. So as the collector of all our memories, would you please share some of them with us?
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, all. So we've prepared a little bit of the history that we could from AIA West Jersey, which started in 1925. So very appropriate, 100 years later. So we'll just get into it. In our research, what we showed was that in March of 1925, Joseph Heddle sent a letter that brought up the discussion of forming the Camden Society of Architects. Camden was central city in our territory, still currently is, and at that point was very, very prosperous. So in 1925, he reached out and to form the Camden Society of Architects. And in the letter he wrote, for some time we've considered the advisability of forming an association of architects of Camden and are convinced that the association would be a good thing for architects as individuals, for the profession as a whole, and the community at large. So they held the meeting on March 19th, and by March 27th, so not even a month, they had the founding members in an office with the Camden building inspector, George Johnson, and he was named the pro tem chairman um, until the election was held, where Arnold H. Moses became the society's first president. So these are just some articles that they were able to find that actually documents that. In February 1926, some additional articles that were found announced that the Camden Society of Architects would hold an architectural building exposition during the week of March 8th at the Walt Whitman Hotel, which was in Camden and actually was a very prominent hotel in Camden that a lot of the local businesses frequented. So they had this event, and this is something that kind of started off the society. And the secretary explained that they're merely carrying out their primary intention to show the people of Camden and South Jersey what architects can do. Um, And then you'll see there's a follow-up article from 1937 that announced the Camden Society was now going to be known as the West Jersey Society of Architects, and it would be included to include architects from surrounding counties. And F. Herbert Rady was elected president. And you could actually see from December of 1937, they did a Christmas greetings from the West Jersey Society of Architects, and they actually listed the prominent members. So they're Herbert Allen, Clement Castle, Brian Edwards, Ernest Earngood, Arthur Gill, Frank Goodall, Louis A. Gettleman, which is a name that you will hear again, Alfred Green, Joseph Hetzel, Howard Hall, J.C. Jeffries, Harold Klatt, Raymond Newt, C.L. McNeely, Walter Mayo, Herbert Moffat, George Newtes, Herbert Rady, William Stewart, and Dale Truscott. So back to 1937, the group has now grown to this. Um, sorry. So here are some additional headlines from 1939. One of the things that, again, when they formed the group, they wanted to promote architects and architecture. So you could see here how West Jersey Society had objections to things that they wanted to do in Camden, for a housing project. And then they also discussed who the work should be going to. So West Jersey Society was very active in local things that were happening and continued to be in the news for helping commissions and also objecting to things that the commissions were looking to do. In 1940, sadly, Arnold Moses, who was the society's first president, passed away. He came to the U.S. from England, and he began his career in Philadelphia and became a very noteworthy architect in the area. His first important commissions were in addition to the Senate wing at the New Jersey State Capitol in Trenton that was completed in 1904. In the early 20s, Mr. Moses moved to Camden and opened an office in the Temple Building. He was partnered with Walter T. Mayo and maintained association his entire life. And after he passed, this plaque that you see pictured with his widow was placed in the lobby of the County Tuberculosis Hospital in Lakeland, which was one of his notable projects. And I'm sorry, this was actually his daughter. Mary Moses. Important change there. Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go. Ooh. Another notable project in our South Jersey, West Jersey area that anybody in this area will know was the racetrack that was technically in Cherry Hill, but just outside of Camden. In March of 1942, there's a press release that the West Jersey Society, along with the Association of the Prevention of the Racetrack, so again, very involved in the buildings and how the area grew. At that point, because of World War II, there were restrictions on certain building elements that were being used, and the Racing Association was able to secure various war materials, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted to stop the use and the construction. There we go. And you can see this continued by the end of the war. They called for architects to plan projects will absorb workers and made idle by the termination of the war contract. So members continued to lecture and advocate as they went forward. The society supported stronger building codes. So again, as we move forward, they got into supporting stronger building codes, and they actually started to coordinate with New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York to pursue a tri-state regional building code to achieve uniformity and to better finance the studies and research to keep the codes updated. So again, as they went from these projects, they also continued to look at what makes architecture better for the community. In 1949, the post-war economy boomed and projects improved. West Jersey Society of Architects sent a resolution to the mayor of Camden in support of the Camden Parking Authority, a proposal that had been put forth by the Camden Central Retail Group and endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce. And then as we continue to see, despite the society's involvement and endorsement, they were opposed to the construction of the garage. And this is actually, we said earlier, we'd see the name Louis Gettleman again. This was a letter to the editor that Louis Gettleman had written to assert a garage on that location would have the opposite effect on what other cities are now doing, and informing open sections in the heart of the business sections. So again, not only were they involved, they were outspoken. And at that point, Gettleman was our president from 1944 to 1946. So for a number of years, he was involved in the society, but then he was also president for a number of years. And we will see that later in AIA West Jersey's history as we move forward, because one of our awards is named for Louis Gettleman for the things that he did in the forming of the society and in the 40s and the 50s. 1945, the West Jersey Society continued to fight for better building codes as it urged the Camden City commissioners to adopt BOCA. In this article, it's argued that the BOCA code was far superior to the 36-year-old building code, which Camden had used at that point, and that they would hope that there would be no more procrastination, that the city legal department completes its survey and updates the code as quickly as possible, and promptly thereafter to protect the members of the community. By 1945, the West Jersey Society Architects membership had doubled since the 30s. So this actually shows the membership at that point of 44 members and associates. And they made the announcement with the unique seal of West Jersey Society of Architects. In the 1960s, the West Jersey Society had a series of notable lectures, again, getting the word for architecture out to the community. In 1962, Alfred Kloss, a friend and former associate of Mies van der Rohe, addressed the West Jersey Society of Architects. And then speaking of Frank Lloyd Wright, Mies van der Rohe, and Le Corbusier, he argued that no stronger leader had emerged since the influence of these men had waned, and it's now possible to predict what the premises of architecture's future is. Kloss is credited with the United Nations building in New York, with familiarizing a more general population to the possibilities of modern architecture. So again, the West Jersey Society was trying to bring in and broaden the local architecture community. For decades, the New Jersey chapter of the AIA and the West Jersey Society of Architects operated alongside each other as two separate organizations. In 1964, they brought up a renewed discussion of unifying as a single society with AIA. And in 1965, the merger took place. So now AIA New Jersey had distinct chapters within the state, and West Jersey was one of them. And this was actually the citation that announced that. One of the things that AIA West Jersey did and still does to reach out was to hold tours. So in 1967, you'll see this picture of the West Jersey Society of Architects having a tour of the American Olean Tile Company. So the interesting vintage picture of the architects of the time. And then in 1967, they sponsored their first annual career day for high school students, designed to give students a glimpse into the career as an architect. 20 high school seniors from 5 Camden high schools participated in the event. Activities included the tour of a construction site in Cherry Hill, and a tour of an architecture firm in the area, Thomas Colby and Thomas. And this is something that, again, they continue today, but they started back in the 60s. And here's a picture from October 1967 of the membership at one of those tours. And then they would actually assemble, have dinner. So again, some more pictures from one of the firm tours. This is from 1968. New officers were being inducted. Past President John T. Oliver, President Armand Nasuti, First Vice President Robert Thomas, Second Vice President Joseph Constanza Jr., Secretary John Carpenter, and Treasurer John Kerr Jr. In the 1970s, the West Jersey Society continued some of, again, what's being built in the area. So environmental concerns rose to the forefront. In July 1970, the West Jersey Society of Architects urged the public hearing on a proposed regatta course at Cooper River Park. John Costanza was president and wrote, "If Camden County is to preserve what precious park acreage it now has, it's imperative that officials change with the administration and maintenance of park land fully understand these functions and be sincerely committed to them. And it is equally important that the public support any legal measures undertaken to preserve the quality of our rapidly diminishing green acres." So interestingly, in 1970, we were dealing with some of the same issues there that we're dealing with today, and West Jersey Society of Architects was trying to be in the forefront with these issues. In 1971, the West Jersey Society crafted a traveling exhibit, Architecture and You, that they could display at local malls. Free literature on how you choose an architect, careers in architecture, as well as other materials about the profession were made available to the public. And as you can see, at that point, Louis Gettleman was president. So now we're back in the 70s, and this is actually Louis Gettleman II, so his son. So the Gettlemans was a family business, and they continued at architecture, and his son was also involved. In 1971, a group of architects from the society joined together to provide pro bono services for the conversion of a defunct Parkside Theater into a community church. When the church's reverend approached the society, the architects formed the Community Development Center at the request of Haddonfield architect Van B. Bruner Jr. 7 architects joined together and used each other's time, offices, and draftsmen. Louis Gettleman II drew up the final plan, but said, "Bruner, it was a culmination of all our efforts. Sympathetic companies donated most of the materials, and a Cherry Hill construction firm offered most of the labor for free." So again, not only talking about the community and what they needed to do, but they also band together, work together to convert this. And interestingly, Van B. Bruner Jr. is another name that you will see in West Jersey history. Not only was he active in West Jersey, he was vice president of AIA National, and he also won the Whitney Award through National. So again, one of our past members who did more than just local things. In 1974, to foster the education of future architects and students, the West Jersey Society presented a 2-year college scholarship through a competition program. David Brown, student at Burlington County Vocational Technical High School, was one, and the competition design was for a child care center organized by West Jersey Society member C. Jones Bueller of Moorestown. 12, as the article says, 12 students competed in this first endeavor. In 1974, West Jersey continued with its environmental focus and it turned to some national issues. The country was emerging from the 1973-74 oil crisis, and West Jersey Society, along with the NJSA and its chapters, advocated for the reduction of fuel use in cooperation with the State Energy Office. So again, an article that we could find about that. In the 80s, they continued to promote architecture students through scholarship program. In 1983, a $500 scholarship was presented for the first time as a memorial award to commemorate a deceased member. The award went to Lee D'Anastio of Pennsauken, a student of Temple University in Philadelphia. Should all be familiar with this map. The Although our territory at AIA West Jersey has changed, just like AIA New Jersey, in the 1980s, the West Jersey Society of Architects included only a portion of Burlington County, all of Camden, Gloucester, Salem, and Cumberland counties. This changed again in the mid-90s, and today AIA West Jersey covers all of Burlington County, and Cumberland County is now part of South Jersey. So you could see how things changed over the years. 1990, again, continuing to work with students, and the West Jersey Society had a design competition for high school students. And due to level of interest and number of classes involved, the students were taking on a field trip to architectural firms of the area. And this is a program that continued through the 90s. In 1991, they collaborated with South Jersey to continue the program. And this was some of the models in the article that shows some of the things that came out of it, the competition. West Jersey gives out a community service award through the years. So this was from 1991, where the community service award was presented to the North Camden Land Trust. And Hal Lickman was president at that point and presented the award. 1997, West Jersey's high school design competition was still happening. And in 1997, the competition included 134 students from 15 South Jersey schools. So, initially there were, half a dozen competition students. Now we're up to 134 in 1997. And some pictures in the article, which was nice, about some of the students and their models. AIA West Jersey did many tours through the year. Again, we had the earlier one starting with American Olean, but here is 2003, where the architects took the tour of the Lincoln Financial Field, which was the new stadium of the moment. And again, at that point, we opened the tours to not only architects, but also their families and friends. So this was a bus trip in 2003 to went to Financial Field, the Link. 2006, West Jersey inaugural ball at Marco's in Indian Spring. And thankfully, AIA New Jersey's president, Steve Cartledge, and Bruce Turner, the past president, came down to induct the members. Continuing the tours in 2006, there was a historic and architectural walking tour in Philadelphia to highlight Frank Furness buildings in the city. In 2011, there's a bus trip down to DC to the West Potomac Park in Washington, DC. Over 20 members and families went, and this was the U.S. Department of Energy's 2011 Solar Decathlon. So they toured sites that were built up of environmental housing dealing with solar. Continuing to get together in 2015, AIA West Jersey and AIA South Jersey, who partner on a number of things as much as they can. This was held down in a native wine bar in Hamilton, and it had been the first West and South meeting since 1950s at the Seaside Hotel in Atlantic City. Collaboration continued. So 2016, I also had a meeting and a dinner event and a seminar. 2019's West Jersey Executive Board in their installation. And again, thankfully, Judy Donnelly came down that year to induct the executive board. Where West Jersey had a number of different things through the years. We talked about the tours. We talked about high school design competition. A photography competition was something that started in 2006. And here are some of the winning examples from the 2020 calendar, so the 2019 competition. Basically, this went out to all architects and friends of architecture in the area to take a picture of architecture, and the competition was held. Winners would be announced, and then they published a calendar as a fundraiser for the section. So this was 2019's winners in the 2020 calendar. Another tour of the area, 2022, is the tour of the Salvation Army Ray and Joan Kroc Community Center, 120,000 square foot state-of-the-art community facility on the riverfront in downtown Camden. It was a long project that went on for a number of years. So when it was finished, thankfully, West Jersey was able to bring in members and families for a tour. West Jersey has also been involved in construction for a number of years to hold a South Jersey construction. So these are photos from 2024 when it was held at the Deptford Mall. And that year, 3,511 cans were donated. They partner with the Food Bank of South Jersey. But the first construction in West Jersey was actually held in Rowan at the College of Engineering, and they partnered with students down there to do the builds, and then the cans were donated, and over the years have been at various places, Cherry Hill Mall, Deptford Mall, and it is a program that continues today. Another event that was held often as a fundraiser was a golf outing. AIA West Jersey's golf outing was originally started as for scholarships for architecture students. So the golf outing, all of the proceeds raised went to architectural scholarships. Over the years, some changes have been made, and now that golf outing that used to be a full day at a golf course is now changed into more modern things. So we do mini golf, top golf, axe throwing. So here's just, some of the various things have been done in the more modern age, 2024 and 25. And as part of pulling all this information together, the Historic Archives Committee has also interviewed AIA West Jersey members. Myself was interviewed, and I talked about, the tours and the outreach and the things that we've done to bring architecture to the community. And Robert O'Reilly, who was 2012's president, talked about our connection with the students and the things that we've done over the years between the high school competitions and also running programs for associate architects who are studying to take their tests, and that has now become part of the EPIC program for the interns. And I think that has quickly come to the end of the presentation that we put together of the things that, we have found in our search. Obviously, we're still looking for more history. We're still looking for more pictures. A lot has been lost over the time, but here's the information for the Historic Archives Committee, who has been, very helpful and done all of this work of gathering and now as a repository. So thank you to Paul Bryan, who helped put this presentation together, Joyce Gattuccio, Elena Sharowski, up at New Jersey Historic Archives Committee. We couldn't have done this without them. And now we have a repository. So here's some contact information if anybody has something to send for them or their local sections, because obviously they're doing all of New Jersey. And speaking of, the next presentation is October 7th. There'll be a webinar. So that's currently being planned, and it'll be released as to what section is going to be highlighted during that October event. And then the AIA New Jersey History Part 2, the 1950s to the 1980s, or the golden years as they've deemed them, is November 10th. And then the presentations will continue into 2026.
Thank you so much, Kim. You
Yeah.
did such a great job. And, it warms my heart to see that, even people who were on the board a decade ago remain on the board to this day, or at least a little bit involved. So I have a bunch of questions that I can ask, but I'm happy to have anyone else ask questions in the chat. But I'll start while people are getting their inspiration together. So AIA West Jersey is obviously having their 100th anniversary this year. But from your perspective, what are the key turning points in the architectural profession that you think have defined these 100 years?
Well, I think, again, it's interesting because you look back into the history and you see the things that, AIA West Jersey was involved with 100 years ago. And I think I made the statement, you could see we still have some of the same things that we're looking at right now, trying to get the word out to the public, trying to, make our communities better. I think just the way that we do it now is more global. And also we could reach people easier in between, webinars like this where anybody could call in and we could share information, between, the way we meet with different community leaders and we're involved in our own towns or our own state or our own regions, commissions and developments. I think we cross some of those borders a lot easier. When West Jersey first started, it was Camden centric, and now we've kind of evolved out, and really we're now around global.
So if we were to travel back in time to when we decided to become the West Jersey Society of Architects many years ago, What do you think practice of architecture look like then? Is the actual practice much different now than it was then?
I mean, probably at its fundamentals, no. But how we do it definitely has changed. I mean, obviously technology has made a big difference. Just some of the things that we can do now were almost unheard of back then. Um, but in the same respect, architects still have the same job. They're still taking, a blank site and turning it into something that serves the owners, the community. So at its base, it's still the same. It's just how do we get there? And I think the partnership has shifted. Again, architects were meant to look at everything. And I think now, because some of the groups have become larger, they're one of the team. They might not be leading it the same way they were back then.
So architectural styles and priorities have shifted a great deal, but what are some key movements and trends that you think have profoundly influenced the profession?
Well, again, I think technology has really had a big impact. Again, not only just materials and availability and what we could do with those materials. I mean, you saw, things were built with wood long ago because that's what was there. Then, concrete and cement and, building blocks. And now we could start to make things that are almost prefab and bring them in, and we could do these amazing things with steel and metal and glass. So I think just the technology that has been there and the creativity of architects to take that material to the next level is kind of one of the unique things about today.
How has the role of the architect changed from master builder to more collaborative? You mentioned briefly about how teams are larger, but responsibilities have shifted. How do you think that has impacted us as architects?
Um, Again, it's just a bigger group. I think that because architects are trained to look at the big picture, I think, in some cases that's still the same, but in other cases, because economy and money for a project is driven by people outside of the architect's control, that's where we're just a piece of the team, that's coming in and working. So I think that collaboratively, architects had to take a step back to be more collaborative, but they also are the negotiators and the joiners. And sometimes I find that architects are the one in the process that can bring all the different people together and get them back on one page to keep things moving.
So Paul Bryan asked a question. He wants to know a little bit more about the Gettleman Award and what was it? Do we still have it?
The Lewis Gettleman Award was AI West Jersey's highest honor that we could bestow on a West Jersey member. And it was mostly in recognition of their service to the profession of architecture. Again, Lewis Gettleman, I had said that back there, that that's a name that you would see. And because he was so crucial in some of those formative years, and he was involved in the society for so long, they named the award after him. And it was every year it was given to a member for what they did for West Jersey society, whether it was, the planning of an event or helping to lead. And unfortunately, I don't think the award has been given out in a few years. Am I correct, Lauren?
I think that's correct. I don't think we've given one out in a couple of
It's something
years.
that we could definitely look at restarting. Um,
Yes, definitely. So if you have any people that you would like to nominate, anyone on the call, please nominate someone. Ben Horton has a question. How many members were there at West Jersey originally versus today?
um, well, originally it started with, I believe it was a low number in the teens, I believe. Um, and Lauren, do you know how many
I
members we have today?
I think I do. I think we're just about 200 now. 30 of those 200 are associate members, plus or minus. Don't quote me on that number.
Yeah, it was a handful of members that started back in 1925, and then we went up to 20. So it's grown.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Um, the 20th and 21st century saw dramatic growth in codes, zoning, safety. How has that influenced the responsibilities of daily practice?
I mean, again, West Jersey obviously was, very vocal in getting some of those things there in our discussion of, building codes and convincing them to upgrade to BOCA, and now we're in international codes. And architects are very crucial to that process, since, again, health, safety, welfare, is one of our tenets. So I feel like, from the society's perspective, we're still involved when codes get updated and things are going to change. We're still very much involved as a profession, but then architects themselves, as they do their everyday practice, and that's a core part of what they're doing to, again, protect the community.
Do you think that the profession's relationship with the community has shifted?
Maybe a little bit, because again, since there's so many more avenues and so many more voices out there, um, I think that the architects have to fight more for that recognition or for their voice to be heard. Because again, there's so many other groups out there, and with technology, everybody can yell really loud. So I think that, that has become harder, but I think what the architects and the profession and the society does is still there, and that same battle is being fought.
So, are there lessons from the past 100 years that we should carry forward into the future of practice? Anything you
I,
cannot let go of? I
I'm
know,
sure there are.
I think some people would say hand sketching, although it is a lost art.
Hand sketching is a lost art. And I think that, again, everybody runs their firm different, and with technology the way it is, it's so easy to jump in, to a project and into design. But I know personally for myself, I still like to start with a hand sketch. It's just, there's something more tactile about it, and my mind works quicker, with the pencil in my hand and the free sketch. I don't know, architecture students coming out today, if they would have the same thoughts. But then there's obviously a point where things go into the computer and technology and stuff like that. But I think some of the basis, it's still nice to have that hand sketch there. And the hope is that technology is not replacing that. Technology is just helping to advance those talents.
So, Joyce would like to know a little bit more about your photo contest. What was the inspiration? How did it come to be? Tell us a little more.
I think when we started the architectural photography competition, it was a way of outreaching to both members and to the public, because again, we didn't say it could only be AIA New Jersey, AIA West Jersey members that were involved. We opened it up to everyone. We opened it up to students. As a matter of fact, we were hoping that some students would take advantage of it, and we just wanted people to take a step back and look at the architecture around them. I mean, we got some very gorgeous, glossy pictures of projects around the world. But we also got some very, nice pictures of local architecture, and we were hoping that people would look at their environment and maybe see it through no pun intended, a different lens and send that and submit it in, and then we could share it. Because again, it's great to have one person look at it, but then as much as we could share it and bring the word out to the community and have everybody looking at the things that obviously architects like to look at.
So I found recently in a bookstore the original version of architectural graphic standards from about 100 years ago. And as I was flipping through the book, I realized that not much has changed except for horse and buggy parking, which I was very pleased to see in that. So if you can think of something in your archive of historical tools, do you have any tools or books or anything that you think were the most valuable to you in practice?
Um, I mean, I probably have some of those same, old books and stuff like that that you don't get to look at much anymore. But I still have, old pens, that drafting pen set that's there that I don't get to use that often. And believe it or not, my grandfather's slide rule is sitting there somewhere, things that we definitely don't use. And again, it's a lot harder with technology today because everybody expects stuff to be in computer. So, when you're working, there's a point where it just automatically does that, but some of those old things just inspire you to look at.
So I just have a handful of questions left unless anyone else wants to ask them in the chat. But as AIA West Jersey has supported practitioners through all these years, how has that changed? Does AIA West Jersey remain relevant to its members? Are there any initiatives or traditions within the chapter that you think has a much longer reach?
I mean, I think some of the things that we do today are obviously, as we saw, some of the things that they've been doing, since they started. And I think all of that stuff is very important because as much as we are more global and, we're more broad and there are more voices, sometimes with technology, you can get kind of very focused into what you're doing. So I think AIA West Jersey is important to give its members that community and that outreach and that connection to other things so that you don't become so tunnel visioned on what you're doing and you don't see some of those other things. And I think, again, the old building tours and, the reach out to the schools, the high school students and the college students to keep that going is very important. Because I think one of the things we found during at AIA West Jersey when we were doing the intern program where we were helping the associates study for their exams, we were starting to partner the associates with our licensed architects, and that cross, between the younger generation, the older generation was very invaluable. And those kind of things, if we can continue those kind of things, it's just going to help everybody.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's it for my questions, and I'm happy to answer any that come in the chat. But while we wait and see if there's any inspiration that comes, I do want to thank you for taking all this time. Obviously, thank you again to the Historical Archives Committee, but thank you, Kim, for all of you have done for AIA West Jersey for what seems to be so many wonderful years of your contribution and your time and your support and the glue of always keeping us together and making us remember all the things that we should do, like the Gettleman Award. So
Thank you.
thank
We don't have
you.
to say how long it's been, but
And not long enough is what I'm gonna say. And thank you to all of our AIA West Jersey members. And if there is something that we can do to support you, just let us know and we're happy to do it. All right. Joyce has something she would like to add too. Joyce?
Sorry about that. I just wanted to mention that actually the next webinar will be central, which will be September 16th at 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. I forgot to mention that. I apologize. And then we'll have the October 7th will be to be determined, and then the part 2 on November 10th. That's all. So thank you very much, both of you, for doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you. All right, well then, since the next one is in September, I hope everyone has a nice summer.
Mhm.
All right, good to see all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.